was with us here. You love Jesus? All right, we're done. You're dismissed. Too bad it wasn't that easy, huh? I got a word for you tonight. I've had this on my mind for a while now. How many remembers the message actually preached with a Coke can? The Lord gave me this message that day, and I've been thinking about it, dwelling on it, reading about it ever since. And I've been reluctant to preach it. Mainly because I need to hear it. I need to hear it just as much as I need to tell it. And I've never preached a message like this before, so bear with me. We're going to be coming. I named it the judgment. It's a hot topic. Everybody likes to say it. Everybody likes to play the judgment card. Nobody likes to hear it, but there's a way. I don't want to say there's a way you can judge people, because there's not. But you'll get what I'm saying. You'll get it, hopefully. I took a screenshot of my Bible, Matthew chapter 7, and I took a picture of it, and if Brother Sean will put it up there. Matthew chapter 7. Do not judge. Y'all say that? The rest of it scribbled out? Because that's the part we like. Brother Darren mentioned it yesterday, Thursday, Friday, whenever they preached. Everybody likes this part. Everybody likes do not judge. That's the part they love it. That's the part that everybody bases everything off of. Do not judge. If you go a little deeper, in Matthew chapter 7, it says, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. With the measure you use, it will be measured against you. Then it says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in yours? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, then you will be able to see clearly to remove the speck out of your brother's. The Lord was talking about judging people hypocritically here. It's talking about finding something about other people that you don't like and passing judgment on it, when all the time you've got things of your own. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. I said a minute ago, there's a call for judging people sometimes. You know, you have to beware of false prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing. There has to be discernment. There has to be prayer put behind it. I'm going to give you an example here of judging people. Brother Roy, what's in that? Pepsi Cola. Of course it is. That's what it looks like. You agree? You'd say there's Pepsi in there. You'd ruin it if you did. Pepsi. Of course it is. It's Pepsi. It's in a Pepsi can. It looks like Pepsi. You open it up, you drink it, it's going to taste like Pepsi. People are the same way. I'm not saying we got Pepsi on the inside, but some of us do. But you can look at people, and you know what they are. Immediately. As soon as you look at them, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into any detail with it, but you immediately know. Okay? I'm going to use Lance for an example. He doesn't know it, but I'm going to. Who remembers the mohawk he wore to church? Who remembers that? Okay. I had no idea he was going to do this. He just walked into church one day, had a mohawk this tall. Immediately, I passed judgment on him. I thought, what in the world is he doing? Dude, you got a mohawk. You're 36 years old. And I just immediately went on, blah, 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 blah. I just went through all this story in my head about how he shouldn't have a mohawk on. He's old enough. He's not a kid. He's not a teenager. I just kind of blew it off. Didn't think nothing else about it. But then I heard the story on why he had it. See, I passed judgment before I knew everything about it. He wore it because he made a bet with his daughter that if you invite your friends to church, I'll let you mohawk me and I'll wear it in public. Lo and behold, they were here, and he had a mohawk on. Happened. Silly, I know. Worth every turn. But I passed judgment on him, and a lot of you did too. Because I was there, I know. But that's how it works. We immediately see somebody, and you automatically, just because of what they look like, what they act like, what they sound like, you pass judgment on them, who they used to be. I'm going to use me as an example. Drug addict, alcoholic, addicted to several things. Some of them I'm not going to go into. But after I got saved, I still look that. I still look that today. But I'm not that. But there's judgment passed. It happened to me. It happened to you. It happened to you. There's still people to this day that when they see me, that's what they see. They see that man I used to be. They don't know what's inside. And that's where a lot of Christians fall. Well, that's where they fall. Because they see people. It happens. It happens in church. A new group comes in. They don't look the same as everybody else. You start thinking. Next thing you know, after you start thinking, you're talking to your buddy about it. Man, did you see what they look like? Man, that one guy, he looked just totally weird. You pass judgment on him. You have no idea what's on the inside. No idea. See, in Luke chapter 6, verse 37, it's kind of the comparison to Matthew. It says it's a lot shorter. It doesn't go through the whole speck in your eye, plank in your eye, speck in your brother's. It doesn't go through all that. It simply says this: do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Pretty simple. This isn't part of it. It sounds easy. I can sit up here and tell you, don't judge people. Don't talk about people. Don't form your own opinions based on what they look like. That's all right. Luke 6:37. Right up before that, you can back up about 6 verses, and there's the golden rule in there. If you'll read it, do unto others as you have them do unto you. There's a form of that in every religion on the planet. There's some form or another, it says that. Every religion. So that's not just something that's new to us. It's worldwide. You just think about it. But like I said a minute ago, we all look at people and we pass judgment when we shouldn't. And I am just as guilty as the next person. Just as guilty. And it happens. And I hate that. Because after I got saved, I would hear these things about so-and-so said this about you. And I would just get spitfire mad because that's not who I was. I knew I was changed. I knew I was different on the inside. Could they see it? Not immediately. Some of them still don't see it. It's an internal change. Carson, you're the same way. Man, I've heard people say, Carson Bird doing phenomenal. Going to church, every time the doors are open, we can see a change in him. But there's those people that still see Carson. There's still people that see that tree climbing Carson that slept on top of the roofs of wherever it was in Palm Springs, California. They still see that because they don't know what's on the inside. Absolutely, it hurts. It hurts. Now, take that and apply it to your own life, because there's people judging you. Your family's doing it. Some of your church members are doing it. They'll pass judgment right in front of your face, and then they'll go, and it'll be on Facebook the next day. They won't put any names with it, but it'll be an in general. I'm not going to mention names, but they'll post about it. I've been guilty of it. I know, because you don't know what's on the inside. You can see the outside plainly. It's got a big label on it. Pepsi. That's what it says. You all agreed. Pepsi. If I can get it open. I chew my fingernails. I got it. Pepsi. You all agreed. You had no idea. You had no idea what was in the can. You have no idea what's on the inside of these people. You pass your judgment off what you see. It's immediate. It happens that fast. Brother Roy, what was in the can? Pepsi. Of course it was Pepsi. Why would it be anything else? Why would it be anything else? But it was pure water. Did you catch that? Pure water. You passed judgment on something that you knew nothing about. You didn't know that I drilled a hole in the bottom of it, put water in it 4 months ago. You didn't know that. You had no idea. See, that's the part I got whenever Ashley was preaching her message. You don't know what's on the inside. Because that's what I was thinking in the back of my mind she was going. I was hoping she wasn't because I was wanting to use it sometime. But you don't know what's on the inside. You see, it's happened to everybody. Wesley, I don't know what's on the inside of you. All I can see is on the outside. You can't tell their hearts. You don't know what their struggles are. You don't know what they've been through. Now, that would have been really cool if I could have pulled that off with just one can. But it kind of loses its... Yeah. Guess I could have shook it up and used Ashley's message. But that's where we're at. As a church and as a body. The thing about judgment is when you start using it. Whenever I passed my judgment on Lance and his mohawk, had I not gotten the full story, I'm sure I would have texted Cody about it, and we would have started talking about it. And next thing you know, it's blown way out of proportion to something that never even started to be. It was never even begun to be that way. But yet, that's how it works. See, it spreads lies. Something that ain't the truth, if you tell it, it's a lie. It's plain and simple. And it spreads, and it spreads. We did an exercise one time with the Boy Scouts. There was about 20 of them sitting in a circle. And we leaned over, and we told one boy a story. And it was pretty lengthy. There was a lot to remember to it. And he passed it on, and he passed it on, and he passed it on, and he passed it on. And by the time it got back to me, the story wasn't even close to where it started. And that's the way this goes. See, I would have told Cody about, did you see Lance wearing his mohawk? What an idiot. I'd have passed judgment on him. Because that's what had happened. Cody would have said something to Jennifer. Jennifer would have said something to somebody else. They would have said something to somebody else. And by the time it got back to Lance, if it got back to Lance, but by the time it got to Jesse, who knows what it would have been, you know? He'd have been in a miniskirt or something like that, you know? Who knows? But that's how it happens because we don't know what's on the inside. So I shouldn't have said anything to start with. I didn't know his heart. I didn't know why he did what he did. That's the same way with everybody else. You don't know why Carson does what he does. Don't judge him for it. You don't know why Jesse does what he does. Don't judge him for it. A new group that comes in, you don't know their heart. You know what they look like. You know what they sound like. You have no idea. You don't know if they have any kids. You don't know if they're married. You don't know if they just lost somebody. No idea. And yet, you make your opinion based off what you see. Happens. That's some of that worldly stuff. The world does that. The world judges people. We're not called to. Yes, there's times whenever we are allowed to inspect somebody's fruit. Because if you dig deeper into that, about the measure that you can that you judge people with, we come back to you. There's detail to that. There's detail. There's fruit inspectors. You know, you can do all that with it. But instead of judging people, we should be lifting them up. If you're going to talk about somebody, I'm the world's worst. Don't think I'm pointing fingers. Because like I said, I've been reluctant to preach this because I needed to hear it. If you want to talk about somebody, make it something good. He said it this morning. That was part of the confirmation in this. If you're not going to say nothing nice about somebody, shut up. Simple. Simple. Talk about something else. Talk about something else. Romans chapter 2, verse 1 starts out, it says, "You, therefore, have no excuse, you who pass judgment on somebody else. For at whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things. Now we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based in truth. So when you, a mere human being, pass judgment on them, and yet you do the same things, do you think you will escape God's judgment?" That is 3 scriptures right there that are very hard to swallow. That's part of that Matthew 7, where you read the first part and you take your pencil and you scratch all that other stuff out because you don't like to read that. That's another one of those verses that you can skip over because, I don't like that part. You know, if we could pick and choose out of the 10 Commandments, it'd be simple. You know, 3 out of 10, man, you're good to go. Wouldn't that be nice? It's not like that. It's not like that at all. It would be nice. Based on somebody's appearance. It happens. Because that's the first thing you see out of somebody. As soon as you see them, you see what they look like, and B, you notice what they're doing. That's just how it works. The third step is then your opinion of that. You know, you've heard the saying, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck. Maybe. Maybe not. Because in this one, it really is Pepsi. You might have got that one right. You got that one right. I gave you the one that had Pepsi in it. But then again, you might not have. You might have totally missed it. And then that's where we get in trouble. When you totally miss it. Because chances are, if you were right, you probably wouldn't be talking about it anyway, because it wasn't fun. You know, it didn't stir up any dissension. It wasn't good for gossip. You can go in there, gossip's in there too. I didn't look it up. That was a free one. There's a lot of things the Christian body needs to change. Taylor Drake, the message he preached was phenomenal. A lot of those that heard it didn't like it. It was deep. It was very deep. This man didn't wade out into the water. He jumped in the 12-foot end, burst right out of the box. He opened his Bible and stepped off into it. But did you catch what he said about the entire thing? Get him to Jesus. That was the bread and butter of his message. He said a lot of things, and he said them quick. He covered a lot of ground and a lot of scripture. I couldn't even keep up with him on the computer. And he was just talking. Get them to Jesus. He's their judge, not us. Whenever they die, if we get raptured out of here, or if they just die, you're not going to be the one standing there next to God. It's going to be Jesus, the one they need to be in anyway. Fruit inspectors. We're not judges. You can look at their fruits. If their fruits aren't bearing, then you go from there. But just your first glance, your first meeting, let's say first impressions are everything. As soon as you base your opinion off somebody you've seen the very first time, that's your opinion. And it takes a long time to change that. You agree to that? We're not even going to go into, I've got a whole section on what you're supposed to do if you are right. We're not even going to go there. That's a whole different part of the Bible you can scribble out because it doesn't make sense or you don't like it. I wish it was that easy. I wish we had the option of taking 3 or 4 chapters of this thing, picking what we like, the parts that everybody's got highlighted, circled, underlined, and just go with that. That's not the way it works. And I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that I am just as guilty as the next person. It happens. it happens. And until it's made real for you, it'll probably keep happening, and keep happening, and keep happening. This was made real for me tonight. I've read it. I've studied it. I typed it out. But now I've heard it. Now I've heard it. And it's Scripture. It's not just my opinion. This is real. Judging people is real. I'm not saying you can't correct them, but there's a way to go about that. Like I said, we're not going to go into that. We'll save that for a Sunday school class or something. We'll get there. Might take 3 or 4 years, but we'll get there. Judging people's hearts. Can't do it. You don't know what's on the outside. I can sit here and tell you story after story after story of people that I passed judgment on. A lot of you are sitting here. It's truth. And if you'd be honest with yourself, you probably have too. Someone give it like this. Cody, if you don't mind. Romans chapter 2 made it pretty clear. Jesus said it. He said it in 3 or 4. He said it in 2 of the 3 Gospels 2 of the 4 that I know of. I didn't look at Mark or John, but it's pretty close. But you can read Romans. You therefore have no excuse to pass judgment on somebody else. That was the short version. I'm going to give a call like this. If something pricked your heart tonight, if there's something that stung in any of this, God's talking to you about it. It's been made real. And death is certain. The judgment after that is even more certain than that. I like to try to keep myself repented up, if you know what I mean. Paul said, I die daily. If Paul has to die daily, so does Johnny. So if you're here and there's anything that you need to talk to God about, now's the time.